All of you are aware of this pro-life ministry, right? എല്ലാവർക്കും അറിയത്തില്ല ഫോർ ലൈഫ് മിനിസ്ട്രി. നിങ്ങളുടെ പാരിഷിലൊക്കെ വി ഹാഡ് ദ ലൈഫ് സൺഡേ സെലിബ്രേഷൻസ്. ഫീനിക്സ് ഒക്കെ ലൈഫ് സൺഡേയുടെ അകത്തൂടെയാണ് ആൾക്കാരെ കടത്തി വിടുന്നത്. So those pictures was really beautiful, I think. So basically, the diocese is moving towards a full-fledged pro-life ministry. In America, in most of the dioceses, this pro-life ministry is really, really powerful. And there are so many exciting programs happening nationally, like March for Life in Washington, Walk for Life here in San Francisco, like Walk for Life, then Houston. So in so many places, there are a lot of very powerful pro-life activities taking place. Instead of shouting slogans and creating kind of turbulence in the political arena, maybe why can't we think of with the message of celebrating the life, reaching to the people and telling them, okay, the God has given us a beautiful life. നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലെ കുടുംബങ്ങളെ കുറിച്ച് ഓർക്കുമ്പോൾ നമുക്ക് അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ബ്യൂട്ടിഫുൾ ഫീലിംഗ്സ് ഉണ്ട് അല്ലെ. നമ്മുടെ ഗ്രാൻഡ് പാരന്റ്സ്, റിലേറ്റീവ്സ്, കഴിഞ്ഞ സഗസ്റ്റച്ചും പറയുന്നുണ്ട് നമ്മുടെ ഈവൻ സം ഓഫ് അവർ എക്സ്പ്രഷൻസ് ലൈക്ക് ഫാമിലി റിലേറ്റീവ്സ്. നമുക്ക് അമ്മായിയുണ്ട്, കൊച്ചപ്പനുണ്ട്, ചിറ്റപ്പനുണ്ട്, പേരപ്പനുണ്ട്, അമ്മാവനുണ്ട്. Quite many terms we have to explain our relationships. So sometimes the culture doesn't have enough words to explain this kind of relationships. Whereas നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ലാംഗ്വേജിൽ അല്ലെങ്കിൽ ഒരു കൾച്ചറിൽ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങൾ it doesn't mean that we are expecting anything and everything, but still we have that attitude. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയൊരു സാഹചര്യത്തിൽ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ഗിഫ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ലൈഫിന് വേറൊരു ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡിൽ കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. Why can't we celebrate our life? A positive attitude towards our life. There could be a lot of miseries and issues in our life, but still God has called us to this beautiful gift of life and to celebrate it. There are a lot of difficulties that we face in our life. നമുക്ക് ഫൈനാൻഷ്യൽ ഡിഫിക്കൽട്ടീസ് ഉണ്ട്, ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളുണ്ട്. പലരും നമ്മൾ അമേരിക്കയിലൊക്കെ വന്നതിന്റെ തന്നെ പിന്നൊരു കാരണം maybe to gain a better life financially, in terms of comforts, in terms of promises, in terms of opportunities, in terms of exercising your freedom, personal choices. ഇതൊക്കെ ഈ നാടിന്റെ ഒരു പ്രത്യേകതയാണ്. But still, when we look back into our maybe 10 years or 15 years or 20 years, have we really become joyful, happy, or proud, or thankful about our life over here? I don't say we are not at all, but when you talk to especially the adult senior generation, at the age of maybe 60 or 70, they are still worried about what have I achieved in my life. They have big houses, they have a lot of achievements in their life, they have in their professional fields they have made a lot of achievements, a lot of advancements, but still there is we can see void, we can see a lot of what do you call നിരാശയും ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകളും അങ്ങനെയുള്ള പ്രയാസങ്ങളൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് അവരുടെ ലൈഫിൽ കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ ഒരു കോണ്ടെക്സ്റ്റിലാണ് വി ആർ തിങ്കിങ് അബൌട്ട് ദിസ് ഫോർ ലൈഫ് മിനിസ്ട്രി. ദാറ്റ് ഈസ് വൈ വി നെയിംഡ് ഇറ്റ് ഫോർ ലൈഫ്. ഫോർ മീൻസ് ടു സ്റ്റാൻഡ് ഫോർ ലൈഫ് ഇൻ വാട്ട് എവർ വേ ഐ ക്യാൻ, in my calling as a human person, in my calling as a Christian, as a Catholic, as a priest, or as a husband, as a wife, as a feminine, or as a boy, or adult, how we can stand for the cause of life. That is a search that is happening in this ministry. അതുകൊണ്ട് നമ്മൾ ഈ pro life ministry കുറിച്ച് പറയുമ്പോഴും it's not completely a defined, planned out ministry. Actually, you are here so that you can contribute in your own way, your thoughts and your ideas into the formulation and into the growth of this ministry. Today we will be spending some time in reflecting about a couple of documents from the church, like Jomi was referring to that, like Humane Vitae, Donum Vitae, Evangelium Vitae. All this, the Vitae stands for what? Vitae means life. Vital, English vital. It is not simply life. Vital means it is really what you call with power, with it is vibrant. It is strong. It is completely blossom. It is so beautiful. So that is a time of vitality. Vital എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ അതാണ്. അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് life in its splendor. That is the idea behind. So the purpose of this sharing is actually to place us in a context where we can think of what is the teaching of the church about life. Then as a Catholic, as a professed Catholic, as a person who received the sacrament of baptism, how we can take this teaching of the life seriously, not adding up or diluting with our own personal convictions, but completely dedicating and accepting to the teaching of the church. Then think in a very practical way in our parish community, in our cell groups and prayer groups, in our family units, in our movement, how we can give it flesh, how we can live it. So that is the idea behind. The church has given very strong, beautiful teaching about the gift of life. First of all, we want to know it. Then, as people who have responsibility, like people who have taken the sacrament of baptism, how we can implement it, how we can live it, how we can witness in our own life context. So that is something that we are going to think about it. So I'm not going to give you a complete details of all these three documents: Humanae Vitae, Donum Vitae, and Evangelium. Humanae Vitae means human life. Donum Vitae means the gift of life. Donum, donation. Gift of life. And Evangelium Vitae is the gospel of life. The gospel of life. So these are the three documents in which the question of life, the virtue of life is very well explained and dealt with the Holy Fathers. This Humanae Vitae was published in 68 by Pope Paul the Sixth. Then Donum Vitae, do you know who made this letter? This is not an encyclical. This is a letter from the Congregation for the Doctrine of Faith, Cardinal Ratzinger, who later became Pope Benedict. Cardinal Ratzinger wrote this letter in 87 when there were some specific questions about some scientific advancements like organ transplantation, stem cell research, euthanasia, kind of things happen. Then that was a response to those kind of questions. Then Evangelium Vitae, Pope John Paul II, he wrote this beautiful encyclical Evangelium Vitae. So maybe to think about a context of maybe a common theme that we can see in all these three documents is the idea of celebrating life. Celebrating life. We are called to celebrate our life. World has its own way of celebrating the human life. Like in a world celebrating, what are some of the ways how we celebrate in a world? Anniversaries, birthdays, then Jubilee. Yeah. Yeah, all these days. Valentine's Day. Yeah, see, Joby is talking about Valentine's Day. Father's Day. Mother's Day. A lot of other days, a lot of celebrations, sales and promotions and kind of things, The world has its own ways of, even like for Christmas, you don't talk about Christ or any of those kind of things, There is all these sales, beautiful colors, gifts, packets, wrappings, ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. ഇതാണ് ഒരു വേൾഡ് സെലിബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന ഒരു മെത്തേഡ് ഓഫ് സെലിബ്രേറ്റിംഗ് ദ ലൈഫ്. അതിനെക്കുറിച്ച് മാർപ്പാപ്പമാരെ ഈ മൂന്ന് ഡോക്യുമെന്റ്സ് നോട്ട് ഇൻ എ കൺസിസ്റ്റന്റ് വേ ബട്ട് സംതിങ് ദാറ്റ് വി കൻ പുൾ ഈസ് the world is using the terms like usefulness, productivity and efficiency. These are the three terms the popes, especially Cardinal Ratzinger, uses. Usefulness, productivity and efficiency. This is the way, or these are some of the values in which the celebration of the life by the world is taking place. If we are useful, there is a lot of ways to celebrate life. ഒരു ലോകത്തിന്റെ ദൃഷ്ടിയിൽ നമ്മുടെ വലിയ ഒരു അപ്പച്ചനെ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത് തന്നെ അമേരിക്കയിലേക്ക് നമ്മുടെ വീട്ടിലോട്ട് കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നത് there is no value. It's not profitable. It's not an efficient way of doing it because it will cause you, losing your money, losing your comforts, losing your privacy, losing your individual type of pleasure and enjoyment. വേറൊരു കുട്ടിയെ നമ്മൾ കുടുംബത്തിലോട് സ്വീകരിച്ചത്. So in world's way, the celebration of life is very much connected to these things: usefulness, efficiency. Efficiency എന്നുള്ള വാക്ക് is very enchanting word. I remember when I was working back at my home diocese in Manadawadi. Like we had some kind of training about how to make your office really efficient. So one of the resource person, he was a very secular resource person. He was saying, actually, since you are running a pastoral institute, pastoral care of the people, you should avoid this word of efficiency. Efficiency is very much connected with what? Machines, like computers and machines. The word efficiency is very much connected with the machines. Appo efficiency, I am not saying that efficiency is a bad idea, concept or virtue. But rather, when we really go for efficiency, sometimes we may put the human person and his feelings and his life situations at stake. അതാണ് ഇപ്പോൾ നമ്മളൊരു efficient way of planning our life in America. നമ്മൾ ചിന്തിക്കുകയാണെങ്കിൽ, you will decide the number of kids, you will decide on very many choices that you would make in your life. നാട്ടിലോട്ട് സഹായിക്കുന്നു, പാവങ്ങളെ സഹായിക്കുന്നതൊക്കെ you can have an efficient way of planning it out. Maybe 10% to the poor, maybe another 1% to the church. Or then a couple of vacations and a couple of cruise ഇങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയല്ലേ പറയുന്നത്, ഞാൻ പോയിട്ടില്ല. അപ്പം ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ ഉണ്ട്. ഓർ മൂവീസ് ആൻഡ് വാട്ട് യു കോൾ ഈറ്റിംഗ് ഔട്ട് ഓർ അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെയുള്ള ഒത്തിരി കാര്യങ്ങൾ ഇവിടെ തീർച്ചയായിട്ടും ഉണ്ട്. അപ്പം that's an efficient way of planning your life. But sometimes we can see many of life beautiful moments are completely neglected. നമ്മുടെ കുഞ്ഞുങ്ങളുടെ വൺ ഓഫ് ദ മേജർ കംപ്ലൈന്റ് ഇപ്പൊ നമ്മളോട് പറയും, നമ്മുടെ യൂത്തിന്റെ അല്ലെ പിള്ളേരുടെ ഏറ്റവും വലിയൊരു കംപ്ലൈന്റ് അല്ല അവരുടെ ഫാമിലിയെ കുറിച്ച്. The parents doesn't spend time with them. സമയമാണ് അവർ നോക്കുന്നത്. അവർക്ക് they have all other comforts, they have car, whatever comforts you can think of. അപ്പൊ അതുകൊണ്ടാണ് ഒരു വേൾഡ് ലൈഫ് സെലിബ്രേറ്റ് ചെയ്യുന്ന വേൾഡ്സ് വ്യൂ ഓഫ് ലുക്കിംഗ് അറ്റ് ലൈഫ് ഇസ് റാദർ ഇൻ ദിസ് കേസ് യൂസ്ഫുൾനെസ്, പ്രൊഡക്ടിവിറ്റി ആൻഡ് എഫിഷ്യൻസി. If you are useful, if you are productive and if you are efficient, well and good, we will enjoy and celebrate. But if you don't qualify for any of these or similar type of virtues, you are not fit for this efficient world, this productive world, this useful world. It is better to keep you out. അവിടെയാണ് യൂത്തനേസിയ പോലുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അബോർഷൻ, യൂത്തനേസിയ അങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ പലപ്പോഴും. ഈവൻ അവർ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ചാരിറ്റി, ലുക്ക് അറ്റ് ദ വേ ദ ഫസ്റ്റ് വേൾഡ് ഇസ് തിങ്കിങ് അബൌട്ട് ചാരിറ്റി. ഫസ്റ്റ് വേൾഡ് ഈസ് വെരി മച്ച് പ്രിയോക്യുപ്പൈഡ് വിത്ത് ചാരിറ്റി. ഇവിടെ അമേരിക്കയിൽ പോലെ ദ മോസ്റ്റ് സക്സസ്ഫുൾ ബിസിനസ് ആക്ച്വലി ഇൻ ദ നോൺ പ്രോഫിറ്റ് സെക്ടർ അല്ലെ. ഒത്തിരി അങ്ങനെ ഞാൻ കേട്ടിട്ടുണ്ട്, ഐ ഡോണ്ട് എക്സാക്ട്ലി ദ സ്റ്റാറ്റിസ്റ്റിക്സ്, ബട്ട് നോൺ പ്രോഫിറ്റ് സെക്ടർ ഈസ് വെരി what you call very successful sector over here. But even that concept of charity is very much away from the church's concept of charity. Charity is actually, I have something, you don't have something, so I will share a little bit of my possessions. I'm not ready to give my life. ഇപ്പൊ ഞങ്ങൾ ഹെയ്റ്റിയിൽ ജിഎസ്റ്റിന്റെ ഹെയ്റ്റി മിഷൻസിൽ വർക്ക് ചെയ്യുന്നുണ്ട്. So when we went the first time or second time, Nisha was with us. Like there is a clinic. Nisha, there Jasmine ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു അല്ലേ? Where is Jasmine? Yeah. So one of the things that we observed in the clinic is like there is so much of medicine and medical equipments. പലതരത്തിലുള്ള സപ്പോർട്ടിംഗ് മെഡിക്കൽ എക്യുപ്മെന്റ്സ് ഒക്കെ ഉണ്ടാവും. ഇറ്റ് ഇസ് കംപ്ലീറ്റ്ലി വേസ്റ്റഡ്. അതെല്ലാം പറഞ്ഞ് എക്സ്പയർഡ് ആണ്. അതൊന്ന് കറക്റ്റ് ആയിട്ട് എടുത്തു വെക്കാനോ ടു കാറ്റഗറൈസ് ഓർ ടു distribute, there are no people. There is so much of inflow of goods, but there is no person at their help. അപ്പൊ അതൊക്കെ അവിടെ ഒത്തിരി വേസ്റ്റ് ആയി പോവുകയാണ് അങ്ങനെ വരുന്നൊരു കാര്യത്തിൽ. അപ്പൊ അതാണ് ഈ നമ്മുടെ കൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ചാരിറ്റി പോലും ഇൻ എ വേ വെരി ഡിഫക്റ്റീവ്. സോ ദാറ്റ് ഇസ് എ വേ ഓഫ് the world celebrating the life. So what is the way of the church is celebrating the life? നിങ്ങളുടെ ഒരു ചർച്ചിലേക്ക് വരുമ്പോൾ what is the way we celebrate life in the church? Sacraments. Very good, sacraments. Then there's very much aligned with the sacraments. One of the expression Pope John Paul would use in Evangelium with is actually receiving and giving. That's what is happening in sacrament. We are offering our life and receiving the blessing from the Lord. Receiving and giving. This is the way the church is celebrating life. In every aspect, when you look from the very beginning of a person's life, this we can see receiving and giving. You receive so much of love and affection from your kids, provided you give them life, അല്ലെങ്കിൽ education, whatever way. Even all the sacraments are you are giving and you are receiving. This is exactly what is happening in the triune God. നമ്മൾ തിയോളജി അല്ലെങ്കിൽ കാറ്റക്കിസം ഒക്കെ പഠിക്കുമ്പോൾ the Father is always giving himself to the Son. And the Son is receiving and giving it back to the Father. That cycle is repeated. It's continuous. It is eternal. And that cycle is actually called the Holy Spirit. Holy Spirit is the exchange between the Father and the Son, which is love. So this receiving and giving is actually the exchange of love. And we can see that in the church. How much of the people, just before Joby, when he was talking about the session on vocation, like the people are committing their life to different vocations: priests, religious, lay volunteers, catechists. A lot of people are committing their life. So much of receiving and giving taking place. So much of appreciation. So much of what I call helping people to grow. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള അതുപോലെ നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ക്രിസ്ത്യൻ കോൺസെപ്റ്റ് ഓഫ് ചാരിറ്റി ഈ രീതിയിലൊക്കെ നമുക്ക് ഇത് കാണാനായിട്ട് സാധിക്കും. So that is the way the church is celebrating the life. എന്നിട്ട് മാർപ്പാപ്പ പറയുന്ന ഒരു വളരെ പ്രധാനപ്പെട്ട ഒരു കാര്യം, when you take any civilized society, these three elements will be the law, life and love. Any civilized society, any civilization, any beautiful society, there will be law, life and love. അല്ലെ, നമ്മളൊക്കെ നോക്കിയാൽ എല്ലായിടത്തും കാര്യങ്ങളുണ്ട്, law and life and love. And Pope would say all these three, like law, life and love, they have their origin in God. Who gave the first laws? It is Yahweh in the Old Testament, the Decalogue. Then a number of admonitions and exhortations. Are you with me? Are you able to connect with me? Okay, so the law has its beginning in God. But the same thing with the life. Who is the author of life? It is God. God is life himself. And of course love. There is no doubt about it. God is love himself. But the world has a very peculiar way of manipulating this. The world has manipulated the law from the Lord. Today the laws are not made under the authorship of God. The man has taken the authority over creating and making and executing laws. മനുഷ്യനെ കുറിച്ച് മാത്രം ചിന്തിച്ചതാണ് ഇപ്പോഴത്തെ. ഈവൻ HHS mandate is another example for that. അതുപോലെ ലോകത്തിന്റെ പല ഭാഗങ്ങളിലുള്ള homosexual marriages, same-sex marriages, and all this abortion, organ transplantation, a lot of other immoral ways of celebrating the life, extending the lifespan, and increasing the number of enjoying pleasure and gratification of your selfishness. This is an increase, and there are so many ways the law is made. The divine is completely taken out of the picture. അതാണ് ലോകം ഇപ്പോഴും ചെയ്തു വരിക. അതുപോലെ the same case with the life. The reality of God is completely moved out, cut off from the reality of life. And when you engage in life-giving relationship, even a husband and wife, a beautiful husband and wife, when they plan their family, when they plan about their children, are we seriously concerned about the mind of God, the call of God? The world will give you ideas and promises where it is better that we keep the Lord aside and plan, because it is your family. You have to provide for the children. You have to take care of their education. You have to give them opportunities. So that is the way the world is exhorting us. And the same thing with the love. Today the expression or the definition of love is completely changed. Love becomes a kind of very sensory, very superficial, very artificial kind of emotion and feeling. There is no responsibility involved in the virtue of love. Love എന്ന് പറഞ്ഞാൽ റെസ്പോൺസിബിലിറ്റി ഇല്ലാത്തൊരു ലവ് ആണ് ഇന്നത്തെ ലോകം പ്രീച്ച് ചെയ്തത്. അല്ല, ഐ ലവ് യു എക്സ്പ്രഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ നമ്മൾ നോക്കിയാൽ ചുമ്മാ നമുക്കിപ്പോൾ ആരോടും വേണം പറയാം ഐ ലവ് യു, ഒരു പ്രശ്നമില്ല. പണ്ടൊക്കെ നാട്ടിൽ പറഞ്ഞാൽ ചിലപ്പോൾ തല്ല് കിട്ടുമായിരുന്നു. You can say to any person, I love you, അങ്ങനെയുള്ള എക്സ്പ്രഷൻസ് ഒക്കെ, because the term, the love, that is devoid of its seriousness. When you say I love you, it means I have a responsibility over you. There are rights and privileges. But ഇപ്പോൾ വരുന്ന ഒരു തരം ഇമോഷണൽ, സെൻസേഷണൽ ടൈപ്പ് ഓഫ് ലവ് ആണ്. I found something good and something attractive in you, so I love you. And tomorrow I may not see that, then I may be loving another person. I mean, loving a kind of attachment to another person. There is no responsibility. I don't take ownership. So that is the way that the world is playing its game. This is something that the Pope is warning us. And coming to our dear Pope Francis, these are some of the expressions the Pope uses in most of his homilies today to explain today's world. I am not going to explain everything. Selfish romanticism. Romanticism is actually a beautiful concept. നമ്മൾ ലിറ്ററേച്ചർ ഒക്കെ പഠിക്കുന്നു, റൊമാൻറ്റിക് പോയംസ് അങ്ങനെയൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ പഠിക്കുന്നു. But selfish romanticism is completely for my own sake. And Christianity of illusion, this is a catchword. People are very, very happy and very proud to being a Christian. But a kind of illusory Christian. We don't take commitments. We don't take the teachings of the church serious. അങ്ങനെയാണ് നമ്മുടെ നാട്ടിലൊക്കെ ഇങ്ങനെ സംഭവിക്കാറുണ്ട്. ഈ പ്രത്യേകിച്ച് the number of kids or the increase of abortion, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കാര്യങ്ങളൊക്കെ വരുമ്പോൾ actually these things are on increase. Siddha Chechiയുടെ സെഷനൊക്കെ വരുമ്പോൾ you will hear to some of her testimonies. The most people who come for abortion, kind of things are actually Christians. Christianity of illusion. And then throwaway culture, use and throw. Then irresponsible populism. And this is the way of sterile pessimism, idolatry of money. Money determines everything. Even your feelings and emotions are controlled by monetary factors. That's a very dangerous situation. So this is the way, in a way, like the world is looking at the human life, and it is in this context through the previous documents like Humanae Vitae, Donum Vitae, and Evangelium Vitae, like the human life, the gift of life, and the gospel of life, our supreme authority of the church, to whom we are personally, we are obedient. Supreme authority of the church is telling us life is good. Life is something that is really a good virtue. Life is good, and we need to celebrate this life. And some of the contexts, like in Humanae Vitae, when you think about it, Humanae Vitae, the goodness, the good aspect of the life is actually explained in terms of morality. Especially, that was published in 1967. Think about the existing situation in 50s and 60s. That was the time all this humanism, began to develop. Magazines like Playboy, തുടങ്ങിയ ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിൽ 1935, 40, 50 ആ കാലഘട്ടത്തിലാണ് celebrating the human body, the human sexuality, freedom, ഇങ്ങനെയുള്ള കോൺസെപ്റ്റുകളൊക്കെ ഡെവലപ്പ് ചെയ്യും. That is the context. And also on the other side, the kind of sterilization and birth control techniques were on increase at that time. This is the context in which this particular document, encyclical Human Vita, is coming out. So it's very interesting to know the background. Like there were quite many bishops and theologians who would favor the idea of some of the contraceptive techniques, and they were favoring the church can make it okay to use this kind of contraceptive techniques and family planning methods, things like that. So there was a commission of around 60 to 80 people, and it had doctors, gynecologists, scientists, theologians, bishops, priests, and all sorts of people in this committee. And Karol Wojtyła, who later became John Paul II, he was one among them. And this commission had this extensive study, and in the final paper, in the final report, later it was leaked out, so it was available to the press. This paper was leaked out, and the committee actually, this 60-80 member committee actually supported in granting permission to some of the contraceptive techniques to be used by the Catholics as morally okay, could be permissible. So the whole world was under the impression like Pope is going to make it okay, make it morally acceptable so we can use it. That especially the first world was waiting for that. But it is said, I don't know exactly, but it is said that some of the people in this commission was not in favor of this idea because of the inherent evil. We will come to that inherent evil involved in that, and they gave a private report to Pope Paul VI. And it is also said that was the time Pope Paul VI was reading the book Love and Responsibility by Karol Wojtyła. He was reading that. Anyway, after the commission's report, when the encyclical came out, Pope Paul VI very systematically and clearly told all sorts of contraceptive techniques are immoral. That is an official teaching, and actually to diametrically opposed to the expectations of the world. That was like a shocking. That was like a big explosion. People couldn't really believe it. Why the Pope is not allowing? And so many went away from the church. And the Pope, Pope was criticized even by the bishops and by theologians. Even then, the Pope didn't make any changes to his stance. So that shows how beautiful and how important is the teaching of this. It's truly a gift. The Pope in the capacity of Alter Christus, the another Christ or the Vicar of Christ. Of course, this encyclical is not taught as a kind of infallible teaching, but still it has the capacity of an infallible teaching. The Pope taught all the Christians that all contraceptive techniques are immoral. In a way, he was proclaiming the value of human dignity and human life. So then the Pope, in this particular, in Humanae Vitae, the Pope said, if we go for this kind of a loose moral structure, what would eventually happen is, remember this was predicted in 1967, infidelity and moral discipline, loss of respect for women, abuse of power. Abuse of power means, we make decisions on our own selfish gratifications. Unlimited dominion. Unlimited dominion means, we have complete dominion over our body. We decide for my own body. These were the dangers predicted by Pope Paul VI in 1967. And today, we are here in 2014. We know whether this is true or false. After maybe 50, 60 years, all these predictions, all these dangers, I think, proved correct. Pope was right. Infidelity and moral discipline is on increase in countries and communities. Unlimited dominion. The way they treat their body, like they are the author of their body. They decided for abortion, for experimentations like embryonic stem cells, kind of things. See, all the predictions of the Pope came very, very true. But when we look into the Humanae Vitae, even though the Pope declared it as a teaching for the whole of church, and he very beautifully elaborated the dangers involved, but when you look into the history, very few Catholics actually really accepted the teaching in humanity. And then later, Pope John Paul II and Cardinal Ratzinger were studying about it. So one of their finding is the foundation of the teaching of Humanae Vitae was based on a kind of moralistic attitude. Moralistic attitude in the sense like, okay, there were certain moral rules were laid down, like do not commit adultery, kind of things, of chastity. And upon that moral standards, a life system was built. അപ്പോൾ നമ്മൾ പിള്ളേരുടെ അത് ചെയ്യരുത്, ഇത് ചെയ്യരുത്, ഇങ്ങനെ ചെയ്യണം എന്നൊക്കെ നമ്മൾ നിയമങ്ങൾ കൊടുക്കുക. Kind of stipulations and prudish list. Stipulations and rules. There was a moral structure, moral standards, and the human life was built, or the Catholic life was built on, or this particular morality or appreciation towards human life was built on these moral rules. And we all know that whenever there are some rules and regulations, or it's very hard for us to abide by that. നിയമങ്ങളോട് നമുക്കൊരു നാച്ചുറൽ കൈൻഡ് ഓഫ് ഒരു വയലന്റ് ആറ്റിറ്റ്യൂഡ്, നമ്മൾ നിയമങ്ങൾ എപ്പോഴും ലംഘിക്കാനായിട്ടുള്ള ഒരു പോസിബിലിറ്റി ഉണ്ട്. It was just like this is the moral principle of the church, so therefore you have to do so. You cannot use contraceptive method, you cannot do abortion, you cannot do this, you have to do this in this way. ഒരു മോറൽ സ്ട്രക്ചറിലാണ് ഇത്, ഒരു മോറൽ regulations അല്ലെങ്കിൽ നിയമങ്ങളിലാണ് ഇത് കൂടുതലായിട്ട് ബിൽഡ് ചെയ്യുന്നത്. So later, especially in the writings of Pope John Paul II, he under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, he very well understood this is not going to work as it is expected to work, because it is worked on some morals, some kind of standards, some kind of rules and regulations that will not a kind of some of the expression Pope used to was a legalistic authoritarian approach will not reach people's heart. It is decided by law. ഇപ്പൊ നിങ്ങളോട് എല്ലാവരും പറയണം, നാളെ പോലെ നിങ്ങളെല്ലാവരും ഇങ്ങനെ പർട്ടിക്കുലർ ഡ്രസ് കോഡിൽ വരുന്ന ഒരു നിയമം ഉണ്ടാക്കിയാൽ യു ആർ നോട്ട് ഗോയിങ് ടു everybody is sometimes people may do that, but it is not a wholehearted cooperation. You may be compelled to that, but it may not be a wholehearted obedience. So a legalistic authoritarian approach will not touch the heart of the people. So there won't be 100% involvement in this moral structure, in this kind of a value system. So John Paul II, by the time he published Humanae Vitae in this was in 87, I think, 86, 87. When we published the Evangelium Vitae, the Gospel of Life, he moved from a moral edifice or foundation to a personalist foundation, to find the human person as the foundation of all morality of the church or the life of the church. What is human person? And once you define what is a human person, there is a positive attitude towards the human person, and then build a structure on that. So the Pope John Paul II very well used this personalistic attitude, because in all the writings of Pope John Paul II, the dignity of the human person is a major concern. Human person is created in the image and likeness of God. We are carrying the image and likeness of God. So that image and likeness demands a kind of lifestyle from us. It is not something imposed on us by a church. The lifestyle or the morality is not something imposed on us, but rather our very nature as a human person demands a particular lifestyle. You are a human person. You are not simply a creature, just like any other animal in this world. We are persons. We are endowed with the divine element in us. The God has breathed into human nostrils. He walked with us in the Garden of Eden. He conversed with us. He spent time with us. He considered us equal to him. And he was in a very friendly relationship with the human person in the Garden of Eden. So that reality that a human creature is a person with inalienable rights, with responsibilities, with the capacity to love, with the capacity to use the gift of freedom, with the capacity of the rational nature of the human person. All these are different ways of explaining the personhood of the human animal, so to say. So we are not simply animals, but we are person. So if you are a person, that demands a particular lifestyle. If you are an animal, for example, all the animals have their own lifestyles. മൃഗങ്ങൾക്ക് അവരുടെ lifestyle. They are driven by instincts. They are driven by the survival fear in them. One animal is their way of approaching life. But we are not simply another animal. We are human person. So our very person demands a lifestyle. So that is why the Evangelium Vitae is actually an appeal to the heart of the human person. It is not, the Pope is not demanding something from outside, but rather the Pope is speaking from the inside of our heart. That is a major difference between Humanaviti and Evangeliviti. In Humanaviti, actually, the approach, like Pope as the supreme authority of the church, is instructing his subjects, his faithful. You are our people. You have received the sacrament of baptism. You have a duty to build this moral life and this attitude towards life. But whereas when we come to Evangelium Vitae, under the guidance of the Holy Spirit, we can see when you read this particular encyclical, you will feel the Pope is sitting inside of your heart and talking to your heart, talking to your person. It's a complete, different attitude. You are finding yourself when you read this Evangelium Vitae, a very personalistic attitude. So in this personal attitude, your personhood, the reality that you are a human person is completely respected. You are not imposed certain code of conduct in your life. Rather, you are inspired, so to say, or you feel that it is my duty, it is my true nature. So in that, one of the expressions the Pope uses is, human person is sui juris and altering incommunicabilis. I kept the Latin expression so that you would get the idea behind it. Human person is sui juris. Sui juris means, juris is jurisdiction, like attorney, jurisdiction, like governance, administration. So sui juris means human person is the governor of himself. He is his own master. Every human person is his own master. Of course, we have God as our master. But the difference of the human person with the rest of the animal kingdom is the animals cannot decide for themselves. They are driven by instincts. They are driven by the forces of the nature. They are driven by the signs of time. Whereas we as human persons, we are our own masters. We have the capacity of freedom. God has allowed us to be free. God has allowed us to make mistakes. God has allowed us to even sin. Even then, His love is not going to go away from us. He is coming after us. So man is his own master. So another person cannot completely rule you. And the second is altering incommunicabilis, means man cannot communicate himself completely. See, I have an idea in my mind. I am struggling hard to communicate it with you. This would be very true even with lovers or husband and wife or any person, We are struggling to express our love. We are not struggling that much to express our anger or those kind of negative feelings. That comes very automatic and we are experts in that. But when it comes to matters of love and communicating your own person, it is very hard. Even after 10 years or 20 years of very close intimate life, sometimes your person is completely misunderstood by your spouse. You may be loving your children completely, their good future may be your only dream. But in spite of that, sometimes your children may completely, may not understand you. That would happen the other way too. Because human person cannot be completely communicated. Because we are persons. We are endowed with the freedom. We are endowed with rationality. We are a higher breed in the animal kingdom. So we cannot completely communicate. So that is that's the foundational nature of man. And here the world will exactly agree to this. This is the gospel of the world also. Like man is his own master and man is incommunicable completely. I have my word and you cannot, whatever you try, whatever background check or whatever you do, you cannot completely penetrate my inside, my inner person. It cannot be completely communicated. So the only way that the Pope says, even though the man is his own master and even though he is incommunicable, there is one specific context where man would go beyond it. That is only when there is genuine love. The genuine love will demand a kind of submission. Okay, genuine love, it is very easy to obey another person. Even though we want to be completely free, but if you are driven by genuine love, you would be very happy being a slave of another person. That's why true lovers would say, I will get the Ambli for you, I will get the whole world for you. നമ്മൾ എന്ത് ചെയ്യാൻ നല്ല റെഡിയാണ് നമ്മുടെ ഒരു ലവറിനെ പ്ലീസ് ചെയ്യാനായിട്ട്. That may not be genuine love, but it is driven by love. The love makes you actually a slave. It goes just the opposite. And in love, a complete communication is possible. If there is genuine love, you give yourself completely to another person. That's why the sexual intimacy of a husband and wife, it takes you a kind of trance state experience. It helps you to step outside of your limitations. അങ്ങനെയുള്ള ഒരു വലിയൊരു മനോഹരമായ അനുഭവത്തിലേക്ക് even in communities where people genuinely love and accept each other, you feel that I am accepted, I am well appreciated. This is my family, this is my community. Here I am accepted very much. So the man will be able to go beyond these two limitations only when there is genuine love, and that genuine love is always life supporting. That is the place where you give. That genuine love is actually beautifully expressed in the attitude of gifting oneself. In a very, very beautiful community, you give yourself at the service. Like suppose, parish is a beautiful community. You are ready to serve. You will be serving as catechists, you will be serving as kaikarins. Not because you get anything back, or you will be serving as volunteers. And there will be a lot of vocation. People will be committing their life to priesthood and religious life and single life, to missionaries. When they are loved, there is so much of self-giving is happening. And again, they will let another person to control you. That is what is happening between a husband and wife. When the other person genuinely loves you, you will even make lot of sacrifices of your personal choices. Freedom. Am I talking truth? It's actually the words of the Holy Father. The law of gift determines this expression of love. And only in the context of this love and gift, man can step beyond his limitations of being a master of his own self and being incommunicable. So in this law of gift, you become a slave, or you become obedient to another person, and you become completely communicated, or completely communicable to another person. Actually, the virtue of life is the best way of exercising this law of gift. In deciding to give life and accept life. Give life, examples like a new life, having more children, or accepting adoptions and stuff or appreciating the life, taking care of the elderly, taking care of the poor, acts of charity and mercy, positive attitude towards life, celebrating life in a church way, like receiving and giving. Then this law of gift becomes, very, very beautifully present, and we will be able to overcome the limitations of being a human person. So that is something in the Evangelium Vitae, the Pope John Paul II is actually inviting us to experience deep inside of our own heart, because it is a personalistic approach. Human person is basically, foundationally a person, and a person can become genuinely a person only when there is sincere gift of himself. So in this For Life ministry, actually, we are building a culture of gifting our life. Not to lose it, but to celebrate it. Gifting our life to celebrate. When you commit yourself as a volunteer, whatever be that in the church, you are risking your life, but at the same time we are celebrating. There is so much of joy. Like you ask people who go for missionary trips, they will be suffering a lot in the mission field. There won't be any facilities, sometimes there won't be enough food or comforts, but they are very, very happy. They are ready to spend a lot of time over there. When we went many times to Haiti, that was our experience. Our youth were ready to spend any amount of time over there. Not because the place is so comfortable and happy. There is nothing actually. There is no comforts at all. But they are ready to spend time over there. That's an experience of people went for mission trips. The same thing whether you ask for people who take serious efforts, like Joby being a leader in the Diocesan Youth Apostolate and Jesus Youth, or Kevin as a seminarian, or there are many catechists, and you all are performing some kind of voluntary work in your parish. There will be kind of difficulties and pain, but in spite of that, you all continue because there is something beautiful happening in our life. Okay, so that is an idea behind Evangelium Vitae. So this For Life ministry or Pro Life ministry is geared towards this attitude or this invitation to be a gift at the service of the church, at the service of the human person. So in this encyclical, when you read it later, the Pope is talking about some dangers like misunderstanding a person, not able to see a person as a person. That's a difficulty today most of our people are facing with. Seeing others as objects of my self-gratification. Or the false idea of freedom kind of licentiousness, that I can do anything that I want. So a false idea of freedom, an idea of freedom without any responsibility, eclipse of the sense of God, keeping God away from. This is again repetition of what we said before. And obscuring the moral consciousness. That people, the line between what is right and wrong is becoming grey and grey day after day. Some years back it was very clear. If you ask, okay, is this wrong? There were clear answers. This is wrong or this is right. But today, in that context, for Indians that may be okay, but Americans it is not okay. For adults it is okay, but youth it is not okay. Kind of, grey areas. These are the dangers that we should be aware of. So the call is actually to become a people of life and for life. People of life because we are all saved by the life of Jesus Christ. The most genuine, authentic human person. So in him we see the true nature of who a human is. He is the one who gifted himself. And he became the complete, beautiful expression of what a human person could be. He defeated the power of evil. He defeated the power of death. So in him we see, because it is through him we become a people of life. So if you want, if you think, okay, this pro-life ministry or involvement with this kind of ministries is something important, there should be an acceptance of the person of Christ in a very radical way in your life. Without accepting Christ, no charity work or no voluntary work will yield any result. So the primary quality or primary qualification to be a volunteer or to be an active member in these sort of ministries, accepting Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. There you become a people of life. Your life is gained by the blood of Christ. So one of the example Pope uses in Evangelii Vitae is, taking an example for the Old Testament, like the Cain's blood is crying out. And in New Testament we see Jesus is shedding his own blood to save the human person. So accepting, are you ready to accept Christ in a very radical, personal way? It is not simply say, okay, I have my baptism certificate, so I'm a Catholic, I'm a Christian. No. In your personal life, in your every choices you make about your finances, about the size of your family, about the comforts that you are going to enjoy in your life, about your future prospects, about your dreams, are you able to keep Jesus as someone who is so close and so important in this decision-making process? So, a radical acceptance of Jesus and people for life. Then, we have a reason to stand for the life, to stand for my family, my community, the world around me. We have duties and responsibilities. So, the Pope is inviting us to proclaim, celebrate, serve the gospel of life. We have a duty to proclaim, to tell others, life is something good. It is coming from God. It is our responsibility. And to celebrate by letting the whole world see what is happening in our life. By our very witnessing. When you see families like maybe Dr. Manoj Charan's family, like, a large family with many kids and a beautiful family. That is a proclamation of this gospel of life. Or when you see a family where a child is, that's again what you call a proclamation and celebrating life and serving life, by saying yes to the gift of life. So that is how we become what you call the missionaries for life. So maybe with one more slide I will complete. So in this Evangelii Vitae, the Pope is inviting us to what you call develop a contemplative outlook in our life. This is the expression here uses, a contemplative outlook. Contemplation is reflection and meditation. Contemplative outlook means it is the outlook of those who do not presume to take possession of reality, but instead of accept it as a gift. I am accepting my life as a gift. I am given it from the Lord because of my parents' yes to the invitation of the Lord. I am not an author of my own life. I cannot decide completely for my own selfishness. Then discovering in all things the reflection of the Creator and seeing in every person His living image. Accepting every person. The person may be completely dirty or completely devoid of any human respect and dignity. We may be in situations where nothing is good and bright, but still accepting, able to see in another person the image of God. That is what Mother Teresa did. And we got a beautiful what they call experience in Haiti. The first time when we went to Haiti, and there were a couple of youth with us. And one of the youth had a beautiful experience. He shared it later, like, you know, a child, a small girl from the slum. She was completely dirty, very small, maybe 3 years or 4 years old. You know, that girl ran to him and, you know, just jumped onto him. And this boy was, you know, not at all happy because this girl was very dirty and, you know, and he was not ready for that. And this slum girl, you know, kissed on his cheeks. And later he was saying that was the time he got a kind of healing in his attitude towards girls and women. He had a very kind of, you know, aversion towards women. He was not free to interact with them. But when this dirty girl from a slum ran into him and kissed him, that became a life-changing moment in his life. He was healed of whatever wounds and whatever issues that he had in his mind in his relationship with girls and women. So even that dirty little girl that's coming from that, you know, that slum carries the image and likeness of God. She can bring healing into your life. When you accept another person on the street, when you accept another child into your life, maybe your own child, or maybe, you know, adoption, or, you know, when you take care of another sick person, a person in need in our community, your own parents sometimes, who might have done a lot of, you know, bad things to you, but still they are all carrying the image and likeness of God. So this is a personal choice where I make a contemplative outlook means I personally make this choice because Jesus becomes so important in our life. So, friends, this is in a way, you know, this is the way that these three apostolic letters, Humani Vitae encyclical and Dona Vitae another apostolic letter, and then Evangeline with the another encyclical is inviting us to think about a new culture of life in our context. And that is the attitude or direction of our life ministry. So I was trying to build a foundation upon which, you know, you can think and you can reflect and you can pray and you can discern yourself. So this is an invitation from the supreme authority of the church, and he is appealing to your heart. He is not forcing you. He is not, you know, especially Evangeline Vitae, he is not forcing you as the authority, but rather he is making an appeal to your heart, because we are all human persons. We are created by God as good, you know, the expression of his goodness, and we are invited to experience and witness and serve this beauty of our life.